Hello, and welcome to Your Brain Lied, the podcast where we untangle the messy, sometimes confusing workings of your mind. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to put off the things you actually love doing? We're not talking about dreaded chores or tasks we actively dislike. I mean those hobbies, passions, creative pursuits, the things that truly light us up. You know, the painting you dream of finishing, the guitar collecting dust in the corner, the side hustle you swear you'll get to someday. It's a funny paradox, isn't it? You'd think we'd be rushing to indulge in these activities, but somehow life gets in the way, distractions pile up, and before you know it, weeks, months, even years have passed, and that passion project is still just a someday dream. Today, we're diving deep into why our brains do this to us. It's not laziness, and it's definitely not a lack of passion. It's usually something much more subtle, a trick our brain plays to protect us, even when that protection is, well, misguided. Let's think of our brains as a garden. A beautiful, thriving garden filled with potential. But sometimes, weeds start to grow. These weeds aren't external distractions, like social media or a demanding job. They're internal weeds, emotional blocks that choke the life out of our creative impulses. One of the biggest weeds is the fear of not being good enough. This is a big one for a lot of people. Imagine you've always loved singing. As a kid, you belted out tunes in the shower, not caring if you were off-key. It was pure joy. But somewhere along the line, someone might have said something, a well-meaning critique, a comparison to a better singer, and suddenly the joy gets tangled up with fear. Now, every time you think about singing, that little voice whispers, "What if you sound bad? What if people judge you? What if you're not as good as you think you are?" That fear, that weed, grows taller, blocking the sunlight from your passion, making it harder and harder to even start singing. So, you put it off. You tell yourself you're too busy, too tired, that now's not the right time. But really, you're avoiding the potential discomfort of not meeting some imagined standard. This not good enough weed can manifest in many ways. It could be the fear of failure, yes, but it can also be the fear of success. What if you do become a successful painter? Will you be able to handle the pressure, the expectations? What if your art changes and you lose your initial spark? These are all anxieties that can contribute to the procrastination. Another common weed is tied to our sense of self-worth. It's the idea that our value is somehow linked to our accomplishments, that if we don't produce something perfect, then we're somehow less worthy. Think about that person who dreams of writing a novel. They have a fantastic idea, pages of notes, but they just can't seem to get past the first chapter. Deep down, they might believe that their worth as a person depends on writing a best-selling novel. If the book is anything less than a masterpiece, then they're a failure. The stakes feel incredibly high. This creates a huge amount of pressure. It's not just about writing a book anymore. It's about proving their value as a human being. That's a lot to put on a creative project. So they procrastinate. They research for hours, endlessly outlining, tweaking character profiles, anything to avoid the actual writing, where they might fall short of their impossibly high standards. It's like they're afraid to even plant the seed in their garden, because what if it doesn't grow into the prize-winning rose they imagined? It's much safer to just not plant it at all. These emotional blocks, these weeds, often operate on a subconscious level. We might not even be aware that they're there. We just feel this vague sense of resistance, this lack of motivation. We might beat ourselves up for being lazy or undisciplined, further compounding the problem. But the truth is, it's not about laziness. It's about fear. It's about protecting ourselves from perceived threats to our self-esteem. Our brains are wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. If we associate a beloved activity with potential pain, like criticism, judgment, or disappointment, our brains will naturally steer us away from it, even if that activity ultimately brings us joy. It's kind of like having a security guard who's a little too zealous. He's supposed to protect you, but he ends up locking you inside, preventing you from experiencing anything new or challenging. Another way this shows up is through perfectionism. Now, there's a healthy striving for quality, and then there's perfectionism that paralyzes you. That looks like waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect supplies, the perfect inspiration before you even begin. But the truth is, The perfect moment doesn't exist. The best time to start is always now, even if you don't have all the answers. Even if your first attempt is a complete mess. Think of it this way. If you're learning to ride a bike, you're going to fall. Probably many times. But you don't just give up and say, well, I guess I'm just not a bike rider. You get back on, you wobble a bit, you adjust, and eventually, you get the hang of it. The same is true for creative pursuits. You have to allow yourself to be a beginner, to make mistakes, to create things that aren't perfect. That's how you learn, how you grow, and how you ultimately find the joy in the process. We can also fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, especially in the age of social media. We see perfectly curated images of other people's work, and we feel like we can never measure up. It's easy to forget that those images are often carefully constructed and that everyone, even the most successful artists or entrepreneurs, started somewhere. It's like comparing the first pancake to the finished stack. You only see the final, perfect pancakes. You don't see the burnt ones, the lopsided ones, the ones that stuck to the pan. You don't see the practice and the learning that went into making those perfect pancakes. So, how do we start to clear these emotional weeds and get back to doing the things we love? It starts with awareness. Recognizing that your procrastination isn't a character flaw, but a symptom of deeper underlying fears. Once you're aware of these fears, you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I try? Is my self-worth really dependent on this one project? Am I holding myself to an unrealistic standard? Often, just bringing these fears into the light can diminish their power. You can see them for what they are, irrational thoughts that are holding you back. Another helpful strategy is to break down your big, overwhelming projects into smaller, more manageable steps. Instead of trying to write an entire novel, commit to writing just one paragraph a day. Instead of trying to paint a masterpiece, start with a simple sketch. This makes the task less daunting, and it allows you to experience small wins along the way. Each small step forward builds momentum and helps you overcome the initial inertia. Think of it like climbing a mountain. You don't try to scale the entire mountain in one leap. You take it one step at a time, focusing on the next foothold, the next handhold. Each small victory fuels your motivation to keep going. It's also important to cultivate self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to have days where you just don't feel like doing anything. Treat yourself with the same understanding and encouragement that you would offer a friend. Imagine a friend came to you and said, "I'm afraid to try this new hobby because I might not be good at it." Would you tell them they're right to be afraid? Would you discourage them? Of course not. You'd encourage them to try, to have fun, and to not worry about being perfect. And finally, remember why you started doing this thing in the first place. Reconnect with the joy, the passion, the sense of flow that it brings you. Focus on the process, not the outcome. When you're truly engaged in the activity, when you're lost in the moment, the fear and the self-doubt tend to fade away. It becomes less about proving yourself and more about simply expressing yourself, exploring your creativity, and enjoying the journey. So, what can you take away from this conversation today? Here are a few things to reflect on. First, identify one thing you've been putting off that you truly love. What are the specific fears or anxieties that are holding you back? Write them down, acknowledge them, see them for what they are. Second, break that project down into the smallest possible step, something so small and manageable that you can't possibly resist doing it. Maybe it's just opening the document, or tuning your guitar, or gathering your art supplies. Just one tiny step to get the ball rolling. And finally, practice self-compassion. Remind yourself that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect. Your worth is not tied to your accomplishments. The most important thing is to enjoy the process and to give yourself permission to be creative. I hope this has given you some food for thought, some tools to help you clear those emotional weeds, and some encouragement to reconnect with the passions that bring you joy. Remember, your brain sometimes lies, but you don't have to believe everything it tells you. Thank you for joining me on Your Brain Lied. Take care of your garden and happy creating. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.